I think the conversation about pretentiousness kind of bugs me a little bit. And I've seen a lot of it recently, or in the last couple of years even, right? Because, I mean, pretentious people have always existed. People who, will endlessly hate on mainstream stuff, will believe in some way or form that they are better in some way because of their taste in some form of art. Or they will judge others personally based on their taste in art. And obviously, I think it is kind of generally agreed that those kinds of people are at least a little too full of themselves. But I think recently what I've seen is a pushback, right, from the other side, right? So now instead of just pretentious people fighting kind of this one-sided war against the people they believe to be normies or whatever, there is a two-sided thing now where it's pretentious people versus non-pretentious people kind of actively going at each other. There is this active anti-pretension brigade that exists. And I think that's a little stupid as well. I think all of what it is I think it's a fundamental misunderstanding of the way that others like to, I don't like consume, but consume, and I mean basically consume art, right? The way that others like to digest art, right? In a misunderstanding that not everybody likes to digest art for the same reason that you do. And that you'd think is kind of an obvious thing, right? You would think that, like, yeah, duh, not everybody consumes art the same way. But I think it is less obvious than you would think it is when you see people talk about it. I mean, like, let's think about this, right? If you have a thing against pretentious people or people you view to be pretentious, right? It's because you enjoy art in one way and they enjoy art in a different way, and you don't understand why they would, or understandably it is a retaliation against those who seem to treat you as less intelligent because of the stuff you like, right? And I think a lot of it is retaliation for sure. I'll just do this. I think a lot of it is retaliation, but I think we need to kind of understand that kind of retaliation also misunderstands how these pretentious people, like to consume art. They like consuming things that are different, that are inventive, that are more personal, more experimental, that challenge you, right? And that's the type of stuff that they like. And you might not like stuff. You might like, stuff that makes you feel happy or comfortable, or stuff that makes you be able to relax and forget about the things that stress you out, right? And I think that is just as valid. And I think there's a problem to me with people who kind of act like that, like people consuming art in different ways, that there are valid ways and invalid ways, right? If somebody likes something that's very likable, that's designed to be likable, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? Maybe they don't want something experimental or, something that could be more challenging, right? And I don't mean this, and I hope deeply that this doesn't come off as pretentious in myself, right? But I hope, deeply that, more people can understand that everybody enjoys things differently. I'll come out and say it. I like more mainstream music. Not necessarily super pop music, but I'm a fan of Taylor Swift. I like Taylor Swift. Although I know that, she is not in a good standing right now with people my age. I'm the type of guy who I don't change my opinions on people that much. And she's made bad albums recently, but I don't think that doesn't make them bad holistically for me, right? But I have also, by people, been called pretentious or whatever for the way that I rate movies or I rate music or whatever, right? And to a real, true pretentious person, that idea probably sounds pretty crazy, right? How can I, right, a guy who likes Taylor Swift, be called pretentious for the way that I like to rate stuff? This sounds kind of silly to somebody who is really into music as an art. That someone who they might believe has no art in their music could have a fan who could be perceived this way by someone, But I think you have to understand that there's levels to it, right? Maybe everybody in the world is deeper than you think they are, right? You shouldn't judge others based on a perceived worst taste that they have or worse ability to interpret media that they have. That is not to me a worthwhile thing to judge people on, I kind of thought this too about, and I know this is tangent, but this is like tangentially related because it's about how we judge others, that a lot of people will talk about, right, a problem of superficiality, right, when dating or making friends or whatever, right, that some people are too focused on looks or whatever. And while I think that can be true, I think we a lot of people forget, and what I see from a lot of people is that looks is not the only way in which we superficially judge others, right? That looks are not the only superficial thing in the world, right? Looks are one of many different superficial judgers of a person, right? Like somebody's perceived taste in music or movies is not just as superficial because it shows maybe something about themselves, but it is superficial, right? You don't know whether they're a good person or not. You don't know how intelligent they are based on the stuff they like. And even if you say, well, I do, like, what if someone likes like Tom McDonald or whatever? I'm like, yeah, but that's not a judgment of their musical taste. That's a judgment of them as a person, right? Because of the type of person you would perceive who likes Tom McDonald, right? And Tom McDonald is a person who is more political, right? It is easier to make those kind of judgments. But if you judge someone who likes, if you think, oh, people who like this popular artist or like this popular movie are like this, to me that's a lot sillier. And to me is evidently different than judging someone for liking, for example, a Tom McDonald or an artist with a message that you feel to be hateful, right? Just if you believe it to be tasteless in its quality, right? Because you don't know, right? You'll listen to a lot of scientists or whatever who will have very basic tastes on art or will be kind of anti-art in the way they think about things. Or a lot of people who like the art of music making or the art of filmmaking, who might like stuff that you perceive to be more basic. And I think, to me, the main message is, and I'm sorry, I'm going to steal some guy's bed. Okay, I can't sleep there yet. Yeah, give me some more wood. We're building a wall to protect these villagers. That's kind of the deal. I don't know. Like, to be honest, for me, I think we really should start judging people more on the effect they have on others rather than some kind of superficial judgment of their tastes. Right? That's generally how I feel, if I'm being honest. And when I talk about being anti-pretentious, that's kind of what I mean, right? But I also think that a lot of okay, so I talked about pretentiousness a little bit. Let me I know I've been rambling. This is, to be honest, like a video diary type of thing, right? Because I just need to get out some thoughts I've been having. But let me I'm going to try to take the long-windedness out of it just to say how I feel, right? Plain words, plain out, don't talk around it, let me just say it. I think, and this is going to sound kind of like fence-sitting, but like, I don't know. I think both sides of it, like I said, I think fundamentally misunderstand the fact that others like to consume art in different ways, right? And I think a lot of people in the anti-pretentiousness brigade will will assume that some people only like something for performative, pretentious reasons when they may just like something, you know? And I think it's not really fair to just assume that somebody has a pretentious reason for liking something, right? Until you hear them, until you learn more about them, right? This is what I mean when I talk about superficially. You know nothing about them. And on the other side, I think it's kind of shitty to judge others as people based on their taste in music or movies or whatever, right? And like this also goes for like the anti-pretentiousness that, as I just said, right? But I think that it is just kind of shitty to judge people as people based on the stuff they like, right? Because you don't know why maybe they like watching movies for different reasons than you like watching movies, and that to me is okay. You know, and you can say, well, they're supporting slop or whatever, and like I guess, like I suppose, right? You can maybe make an argument about that, but the fact of the matter is that, you know, I mean, I know this sounds stupid, right? That where I say, well, it's gonna make money anyway, right? Because if everybody thought that, then, you know, at some point, somebody has to make a decision to not support something, right? Because if everybody thought, well, who cares, right? It's going to be supported anyway, then nothing's ever going to change, obviously. But I do think if someone likes something, they can just like it, right? That goes both ways. If someone loves obscure or niche foreign films that explore deeper personal concepts in experimental ways, I think that sounds exciting. And I think that's exciting for them. And if somebody really likes Despicable Me, and that's just very important to them, it's very comforting to them, I think that's all right as well.